So if we circle back to when we first met, what were some of the main challenges that you were dealing with?
Yeah. I think when we first met, things were going good, the business was growing. Um, it was a lot of mental blocks around, even though we had managed to, scale to seven figures, being able to view myself as kind of the go-to person that the top people in the industry could go to for the value I believed I could provide to the world. So having complete confidence that I could provide this gift to people who are doing 500K per month, million per month, 2 million per month. So some of that imposter syndrome lingering for sure. And then the other thing definitely being volatility with focus, right? So being able to go through periods of weeks or months where you're just completely dialed and you can dog those 16-hour days and you have nothing distracting you, but then going through periods on the other end of the spectrum where you really aren't able to get that internal motivation to push through those self-sabotaging tendencies that are holding you back from getting to that next level was something I wasn't able to accomplish with really anything I had tried, whether it was like nootropics, caffeination, any other kind of substances to try to just focus, wasn't able to do it for me.
How did that self-sabotage show up for you in practice?
It's crazy because you don't even realize that you're self-sabotaging. For me, it was a lot of productive procrastination, right? It was a lot of working on things that aren't the things that are going to get you to the next level. And you convince yourself mentally that they're things that you need to be working on, but subconsciously, I've come to realize that it's a safety mechanism. It's like a defense mechanism that your body's trying to get you to not do that thing that's really going to challenge you to break the mold of the person you currently are to become that next version of yourself. And so it was a lot of that. It was a lot of focusing on the wrong shit in the business, focusing on, making new offers and making new value stacks and starting new partnerships instead of doing like the two or three hard things that had to be done in the business that just kept getting pushed off.
I was doing a call yesterday for a group of like executives, like super high level guys, and imposter syndrome was like the number one thing that a lot of these guys felt like they had as well. So for you, when you think back to when you had those thoughts in your head, like what was the belief system behind that upon reflection, or what were those thoughts going through your head back then?
Yeah. Yeah, you talk to, you start working with people at this kind of level and you're getting on calls with the number one person in the entire space for X and the number one person in the entire space for Y. And you you just realize that the expectations are unlike anything else that you've ever faced before and that it's kind of just it's guaranteed uncertainty. It's kind of like an unknown. You don't know what it necessarily takes to um, work with a client like this, satisfy a client like this. They're receiving proposals from every other single top person in your industry. And so I think it's just a matter of um, the uncertainty of, yeah, I've scaled businesses from 0 to 130K, 100K to 300K, but I've never worked with someone doing 500K trying to get to 2 million. Like, do I have the level of confidence that my skill set can help them get there? You know?
100%, man. And so fast forward a little bit to we had the first hypnosis session. For a lot of people, they've never done hypnosis before. I think for you, was it your first time as well?
First time. Yeah.
First time. So how was that first session for you?
Dude, the first session was insane. Like I really didn't know what to think of hypnosis when I first met you in Cape Town. It was my first time kind of being open to the idea of it. Um, I'm a very open-minded person, but I still have, some serious doubts about what kind of impact it would be able to have on me. And I remember that first session was so powerful. I remember when you removed some of those blocks from my mind, I remember for the first time in like a decade crying, just like fucking tears coming down my face because I felt like so many years of mental blocks I didn't know were there and that were so evidently now holding me back from getting to the next level were just like this, gone, like out of nowhere.
And then once you experience that internal change, how did that affect your work and just your day to day?
Dude, it was insane. Like it was hard to believe. I remember after we finished the hypnosis session, it was like there's this concept in transurfing reality of like inner intention and outer intention, right? And I felt very much like outer intention had completely like entered my life for the first time in the sense that I almost wasn't in control of my actions. Like we finished that call, and I remember one of the main things that like I discussed with you on that call was I run one of the biggest personal branding consultancies in the space. We have the fucking personalbrands.io domain name. And we consult some of the biggest people in the world on how to grow their YouTube, how to grow their Instagram. And funny enough, YouTube was like the one thing I could never bring myself to start doing, right? And it had been like 5 years I've been pushing off starting a YouTube channel. And I just been doing short form instead. And I kept justifying it as, like we're crushing it in the short form, let's keep doing that. And after that call, I remember we hung up, we ended it, and like I didn't have control of my body. I stood up, I walked into my office, I sat down, and I spent the next 14 hours filming YouTube videos and posted 5 over the next 4 weeks. And I had never filmed one in my life before, right? So 5 years of not being able to bring myself to do it. I did it on autopilot without even realizing I was doing it. And that ended up bringing in an insane amount of the most qualified leads that we've ever had in our business, right? Because there's people who are willing to, sit down and get educated for hours at a time. And so that like one session alone was unblocked like the largest priority I'd been trying to do for the last 5 years.
That's crazy, man. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, I remember you like texting me. It's like many hours later when it felt like you were just like, I've been working this entire time. And it's funny because so many people struggle with procrastination. So many people struggle with focus. I have a lot of people who I work with who have like ADHD and stuff like that. So for you, how would you describe the difference between like how, because I'm just trying, the reason I'm asking this is so people can get an understanding of like what it's actually like from an internal perspective. How would you describe that difference from before and after?
Yeah, it's like if you think about the difference between like having to use like Vyvanse or caffeine or something like that to focus, that you get in like a very jittery and kind of like anxious state of like focus, right? It's not an ideal state of focus, and a lot of people rely on it on a day to day, and I did for a long time too. Whereas when you get into like flow state, it feels like effortless, and you're not aware of the fact that you're even focusing. You have no anxiety. You have your best ideas come to you. If like using stimulants is here and being in flow state is here, what I experienced on hypnosis was like up here. It's like 5 times that gap, that jump, like when from what the average person's flow state is. And it's such an unfair advantage because you don't even like really feel the time fly by. You, again, it's like external forces are helping you essentially do exactly what you need to do and go down that kind of path towards achieving your goals because you managed to the program in me and in people during those hypnosis sessions of like understanding this is where you need to be and this is what you're going to do to get there on a subconscious level. So you don't even feel it happening. Like the changes are like going on behind the curtains. It's crazy.
And it is crazy because most people go their whole life with that old programming from when they were, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And that's why they're still like this today. And you can use as much willpower as you want. You can do it for a period of time. But then, like you mentioned before, eventually you're going to burn out. Like when you've just done that for enough time. And it's actually not a willpower problem, it's just a programming problem. So that's what you experienced, right? In terms of the change. And I guess like fast forward to now we were talking a little bit off camera before this about some of the clients that you're working with. Do you want to just share a little bit? If you can't say names, it's obviously all cool, but where are you now at with the types of people that you're working with?
Yeah. So now we're working with really like the category kings, the biggest people in their spaces, 7, 8, 9 figure businesses that are like, yeah, like you mentioned, I can't really name names, but you know who they are. I showed you some of the work that we've done for them behind the scenes. And Um, like we're talking, millions of followers speaking on stages all over the world. Some of them doing, multiple 7 figures a month. And being able to work with like the number one person in industry X and the number one person in industry Y is something that even though I had the skill set to do, I didn't have the mental programming to do previously. Like I couldn't put myself in a position where I could allow myself to work with those clients and give them the level of service I know I'm capable of. And now post the neural reprogramming that we've done through the hypnosis and understanding that like I am that guy. I can value that I cannot provide that value to this level of person, and it's in my ethical interest to do so because if I don't, I'm doing them a disservice, right? Like having that kind of reprogramming has been huge, and it's what's allowed me to now be able to take our company to that level of now when we have, the next person who's making 2, 5, 10 million dollars a year on sales calls with us, I'm able to show those case studies that we've already worked with the top people in like industry XYZ. And yeah, the hypnosis has been integral in that process.
I love that, man. That's so cool. If you put one thing as the greatest benefit you experienced from it, I know you mentioned a few, but if there was one thing that was the biggest difference for you, what would that be?
It's, I would say the number one thing is clarity because procrastination and focus is the largest symptom that I've struggled from and that most entrepreneurs I think struggle from. But I think most people don't understand that clarity isn't actually an inability to focus. It's lacking the understanding of the exact next thing you need to do in your business to get to that next level, that next step. And having that uncertainty and not knowing what the next thing to do is what overwhelms your nervous system and makes it impossible to take action. And that clarity is often very difficult to get consciously with all the decisions that you have to make. Like you overthink it, you get overwhelmed. Whereas with the hypnosis, it becomes like it's like the answer gets given to you. It's like a hand reaches down and like just pushes your shoulder in the direction of the exact next thing you need to do. And so I think it's been kind of like that autonomous, like almost autopilot programming of like I never lack certainty now about the next thing I need to do in my business, in my life, in any like form of development. That's been the biggest thing for sure, getting that clarity.
That's huge, man. And the cool thing with you is you already had, like you mentioned, the really high skill set and and I said this to you, when you were giving me advice and you were helping me with stuff, like your level of skill set at what you do specifically is insane. So now that you have the identity and programming to match that, I'm very excited to see where you're going. What's the next steps looking like for you?
Yeah, man. So we've started launching on a number of new offers in a kind of a partnership model with some of these huge people, right? And it's really kind of opened my mind to what's possible and putting myself on kind of like a level playing field with some of these people. So we've started now rolling out new offers where like we have 3 clients we're working with that are the top coaches in their spaces that we're doing joint webinars with and VSLs, but like we're on the camera with them. We're with them as peers instead of as vendors, right? And there's, equity share in that, which is crazy. And so it's really starting to become the number one person in our kind of authority and positioning, like being the go-to person for 7-figure, 8-figure persuasion, like psychology, understanding of positioning in the market, and being able to continue to kind of like create my own foothold in the market as the go-to person in the space for something rather than just the person who works with the go-to people in the space for something, if that makes sense.
Huge. Yeah, that's huge, man. I love it, dude. I love it. Any last things you want to share for anyone before we wrap up?
Mm, I mean, honestly, dude, like the only thing I'll say is again, the same way that I've realized it's like my ethical duty at this point to work with the clients of this size. I think it's like also my ethical duty to say in this video, if it ends up being posted anywhere, that if anyone is watching this and they've been considering working with you, it would probably be the worst decision of their life not to. Because the amount of the compounding effect, like this is another crazy thing I've learned is like the opportunity cost of not taking the right action is not just the amount of time you didn't take that action. It's not just like if you put it out for 3 months this year, it's not just those 3 months. Opportunity cost compounds, right? So it's going to cost you 3 months this year, but it'll cost you 6 months next year, and it'll cost you 2 years of the year after that. And so I know had I started working with you years ago, it's scary to think of where I could have been now, right? And so for anyone who's considering working with you and they're thinking I'm going to push this off a month, 2 months, 3 months, like if you think that it's risky to not take action, just wait until you see how risky it is to, or if you think it's risky to take the wrong action, just wait to see how risky it was to take no action at all. You know what I mean?
I love that, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate it, and I appreciate the kind words as well. That means a lot, bro. We'll link your stuff below as well, because a lot of my audience, I think, will also be interested in what you do, and I speak very highly of you as well. Appreciate it, man.
Hell yeah.